18 years ago, her toddler was abducted from the daycare, shattering her world and stealing the most precious part of her life. But then one day she reads a fashion magazine and sees something shocking. Clara Marin stood among the towering bookshelves of Asheville Public Library, breathing in the familiar sacred scent of paper and binding glue. At 45, her light brown hair, once the color of warm honey, was now threaded with silver, a fine web spun by time and sorrow. Her hands, however, still moved with the same practiced precision they had for the past 20 years. The library had been her sanctuary, her silent, steadfast companion through life's most devastating chapter. As she positioned a worn copy of To Kill a Mockingbird back onto its shelf, movement at the library entrance caught her attention. A young mother, perhaps in her late 20s, struggled through the door while balancing a shopping bag and the hand of a toddler. The little girl, no more than 2 years old, bounced with each step, her blonde pigtails swinging like pendulums. A ghost of a memory, sharp and painful. "Excuse me," the mother called, approaching Clara's desk. "Could you point me toward the children's section?" Clara summoned a smile, one she had perfected over 2 decades. Warm, welcoming, betraying nothing of the chasm in her heart. "Of course. It's right through that archway and to your left. We just got some new picture books in yesterday." "Thank you," the mother said, tugging gently at her daughter's hand. The toddler, however, had other plans. Her tiny fingers reached for a display of colorful bookmarks, sending several fluttering to the floor. "Sophie, no touching," the mother scolded gently, crouching to collect the scattered paper. "It's quite all right," Clara laughed, a sound that felt both genuine and hollow. "That's what they're there for, to grab attention." The little girl's eyes widened at Clara, and she offered a toothy grin that caught Clara's heart in a vice grip of memory. That smile, so free, so curious about everything the world had to offer, just like Ella had been. As the mother and daughter disappeared into the children's section, Clara's practiced smile faltered. 18 years had passed, but moments like these still transported her back to that terrible day, with brutal, unforgiving clarity. The call she'd missed while shelving books in the library basement. The 3 voicemails from Little Acorn's Daycare that went unheard because her phone was tucked away in her purse, silenced. The police cars already parked outside when she arrived for pickup, their lights casting ominous red and blue shadows across the playground equipment. "There must be some mistake," she'd told the officer who approached her. "I'm just here to pick up my daughter, Ella." "Ella Marin?" The weight of his hand on her shoulder, the gentle, awful way he'd asked her to come inside. The security footage they showed her later that week became the defining horror of her life. A trusted staff member, Morris Pledger, leading Ella by the hand to the playground gate, checking her surroundings, then quickly bundling the child into a waiting car. For months, the search consumed everything. Clara's marriage couldn't survive the strain. Her husband, David, moved out before the year was done, unable to bear living in a home filled with the deafening silence of their missing child. But Clara refused to leave Asheville. What if Ella somehow found her way back? What if there was a breakthrough? The police found Maurice's body 2 weeks after the abduction, hanging from a tree in Pisgah National Forest. Suicide, they said. Guilt, they surmised. But there was no sign of Ella. The case grew colder with each passing year, despite Clara's desperate attempts to keep it alive. Ella's distinctive port wine birthmark, a violet-hued patch around her left eye, shaped like a lotus blossom, featured in every missing child report, every news article, every flyer Clara stapled to telephone poles until they disintegrated with age and weather. "Clara?" The voice jolted her back to the present. Sarah, her co-worker, was looking at her with concern. You okay? You've been staring at that shelf for 5 minutes. Clara blinked rapidly. I'm fine, just remembering. Sarah's expression softened with an understanding forged over 15 years of working together. She knew what those moments of stillness meant. Why don't you head to the back room? The new deliveries came in this morning. I'll finish up here. Clara nodded gratefully. In the back room, cardboard boxes were stacked neatly by the receiving desk. She pulled a box cutter from the drawer and methodically began opening the first package, her mind settling into the comfort of routine. Inside were the monthly magazine subscriptions, The Atlantic, National Geographic, and several glossy fashion publications that had proven surprisingly popular with their patrons. Clara lifted out the stack, ready to log them into the system, when the top magazine stopped her hand midair. Vogue. And on its cover, staring back at her with familiar eyes, was a young woman with a distinctive violet birthmark around her left eye, the exact shape of a lotus blossom. The world narrowed to the glossy page in her hand. A roaring filled her ears. The backdrop was a sunlit farm, the model dressed in an off-the-shoulder red blouse, a patterned scarf tied over her head, and denim jeans, looking nothing like a typical fashion model. The headline read, "The New Elegance." Clara's knees buckled. She grabbed the edge of the desk to steady herself, her other hand flying to cover her mouth as a sound somewhere between a gasp and a sob escaped her lips. The face was different, mature, the roundness of childhood replaced, with defined cheekbones and a strong jawline. But Clara would recognize that birthmark anywhere. She'd traced it with her finger countless times as she'd rocked Ella to sleep. She'd described it to police officers, sketch artists, and anyone else who would listen. After 18 years of dead ends and fading hope, Clara Marin was looking at her daughter. With trembling hands, Clara flipped open the magazine, the crisp pages crackling under her fingertips. The cover shot had captured her attention, but it was the editorial spread inside that made her heart pound against her ribcage, like a trapped bird. She found the feature article on page 32, titled, "A Visual Ode to the Hands and Hearts That Keep America Growing." The photographs were stunning, candid shots of farm life across rural America. And there she was again. The young woman Clara believed to be Ella appeared in a full-page photograph, looking over her shoulder at the camera. Unlike the other models in perfectly styled farm attire, this shot had a spontaneous quality. The woman was genuinely working, caught in a moment of pause. The sunlight caught in her light brown hair, illuminating strands of honey gold that Clara recognized from her own mirror. And there, unmistakable even in profile, was the birthmark. Clara's eyes darted to the caption beneath the photo. Emmy Wells, 20, at Kessler Farm in rural Appalachia. Emmy Wells. Not Ella Marin, but the age matched. Ella would be 20 now, having been nearly 2 when she disappeared. With a deep breath to steady herself, Clara began reading the interview snippet that accompanied the photographs. "What's your name?" "Emmy Wells, ma'am." "That's a lovely name. Thanks. My mama says I was born with dirt in my veins." "Why don't you wear makeup like your friends?" "Didn't have time. Was hauling hay before you showed up?" "Your eyes." There's something rare about them. The rest of the article shifted focus, but Clara barely registered the details. Her mind was fixed on the young woman with her daughter's birthmark, her daughter's age, and something in her expression that reminded Clara so much of David. That quiet determination, that graceful strength. At the end of the article, Clara found what she needed. Photography by Leah Dalton. She glanced at the clock on the wall. 2:15 p.m. Pulling out her cell phone, Clara quickly searched for Detective Gary Holden's number. The call went straight to voicemail. Clara hung up. This wasn't something to explain over voicemail. Decision made, Clara gathered her purse and the magazine, then rushed to the front desk. Sarah, I need to leave, now. Sarah took one look at Clara's face, then at the magazine clutched in her white-knuckled grip. What's happened? Clara flipped the magazine to show the cover. I think I found her, Sarah. I think I found Ella. Sarah's hand flew to her mouth. Everyone at the library knew about Clara's missing daughter. Go, Sarah said immediately. We'll cover your shift. Go! Detective Gary Holden had aged considerably. His hair had gone completely gray, and deep lines marked his face, but his eyes were as kind and determined as she remembered. It had been one of his first major cases, and Clara knew he'd never truly let it go. Clara, he said, rising from his desk. It's been a while. I found something, she said without preamble, setting the magazine on his desk. I think I found Ella. He examined the magazine, comparing the cover with the old case photos of Ella. The lotus-shaped birthmark was identical. He quickly contacted the fashion magazine, the call on speaker so Clara could listen. The representative was effusive about the authenticity of the photo shoot. Oh yes, Emmy Wells, she was quite a find, the woman chirped. Not a professional model at all. Just a farm girl with the most interesting birthmark. Makes her look quite mysterious, doesn't it? Clara pressed her hand to her mouth, fighting back tears. Holden calmly requested the specific location. The Kessler farm, they were told. The representative couldn't pinpoint it on a map, but gave them the name and location of a neighboring farm, saying Kessler Farm was about 10 miles north of it. This is enough to reopen the investigation, Holden said carefully after the call. I'll put together a team to visit the Kessler farm immediately. I'm going with them, Clara said, her voice leaving no room for argument. I've waited 18 years. I'm not waiting another day. Holden hesitated. Clara, in cases like this... I'm going, Gary. He saw the unshakable resolve in her eyes and relented, though a court appearance would prevent him from joining them until the next day. I need you to prepare yourself, he warned gently. Even if this young woman is Ella, she's been living another life for 18 years. She may not remember you. I know, Clara swallowed hard. But she's my daughter. That's all that matters right now. The convoy of 2 vehicles, Clara's Honda Civic trailing the marked police cruiser, wound its way out of Asheville. The 2-hour drive was a storm of hope and terror. Each passing mile was a lifetime. The Kessler farm was impressive, a prosperous agricultural operation. A middle-aged couple, John and Miriam Kessler, emerged from the farmhouse, their expressions weary as they observed the police car. Mr. and Mrs. Kessler? Officer Bennett asked. That's right, John confirmed. What brings the police all the way out here? Officer Bennett gestured toward Clara. This is Mrs. Clara Marin. She has reason to believe that a young woman who was photographed on your property might be her daughter who went missing 18 years ago. John and Miriam exchanged a quick, unreadable glance. You must mean the magazine people, Miriam said carefully. We're looking for a young woman named Emmy Wells. John Kessler shook his head, slowly. Emmy doesn't work for us permanently. She was just helping out that day. We rotate workers weekly from other farms in the area. Labor sharing, you know. Clara stepped forward, her voice surprisingly steady. My daughter had a distinctive birthmark around her left eye, just like the young woman in these photographs. Miriam's face softened with what appeared to be genuine sympathy. The birthmark is similar, I'll grant you that, but Emmy just happened to be working here that day. We haven't seen her since. Do you know where we might find her? Officer Bennett asked. John scratched his beard thoughtfully. She came from Rowan's farm, I believe. He's the one who sends us day workers. He scribbled a number on a page torn from a small notebook. Don't know where his place is exactly. Somewhere up in the mountains, I hear. Pretty isolated. The officers conducted a brief, polite search of the property, while Clara waited, studying the Kesslers. There was a careful precision to their words, a tension in their postures that seemed at odds with their cooperative attitudes. Back in their vehicles, the officers tried the number. No connection. It wasn't registered in any system. With dusk approaching and no clear direction, they had no choice but to postpone the search. All right, Clara agreed reluctantly, her heart sinking. But I'm not going all the way back to Asheville tonight. I'll find a motel. That way, we can start early tomorrow. As she drove away, staring at the Kessler farmhouse in her rearview mirror, she couldn't shake the feeling that she had just witnessed a masterfully staged performance. The Pine Ridge Motel was a modest roadside establishment with a flickering neon sign. The owner, a woman named Dottie with bottle red hair, recommended the local tavern across the road. Miller's Tavern, she said. Gets all the locals. If you're looking for information, that's your best bet. Miller's Tavern was a classic country bar, the air thick with the smell of fried food and beer. Clara found an empty stool at the bar, scanning the room. "What can I get you?" a voice asked. The bartender was young, early 20s, with an easy smile. "First time at Miller's?" Clara nodded. "Is it that obvious?" he chuckled. "Small town. I know most faces. I'm Bran." "Clara," she replied, shaking his offered hand. "I'm looking for someone, actually. A man named Rowan. Supposedly has a farm in the mountains." Bran's easy smile flickered. "A lot of farmers around here. Why are you looking for him?" Clara took a deep breath and decided on honesty. "My daughter. She was taken from her daycare 18 years ago. I have a new lead, a photo taken at the Kessler farm." Bran straightened up slightly. "The Kesslers? They don't come in here much. Keep to themselves." He paused, a strange look crossing his face. "The woman who took your daughter... Do you know her name?" "Maurice Pledger," Clara said, the name still tasting like ash. The glass Bran was polishing stilled in his hand. He looked up, his face pale. "My mother's name was Morris Pledger," he said, his voice a near whisper. "She worked at a daycare in Asheville. She died when I was young. Dad always said she was killed by debt collectors he owed money to." The air in Clara's lungs turned to ice. She stared at him, unable to speak as the impossible connections snapped into place in her mind. Bran's eyes widened with a dawning horror. You think my mom took your daughter to pay off my dad's debts?" "That was the police theory," Clara confirmed softly. He was quiet for a long moment, processing. Then he met her eyes, his filled with a new, terrible understanding. "My father's name is Rowan Pledger." He pulled out his phone, showing her the contact for Dad, with a number completely different from the one the Kesslers had provided. "The Kesslers lied," Clara whispered. "My dad doesn't live in the mountains," Bran said, his voice tight with a mixture of anger and shame. "He has a small farm about 20 minutes from here." He looked at Clara, a new determination in his gaze. "I think it's time I paid him a visit, and I think you should come with me." "You'd do that?" Clara asked, stunned. "Even after what I just told you?" "Especially because of that," Bran replied firmly. "If my family had anything to do with taking your daughter, then I need to help make it right." The night had fully settled as Clara followed Bran's pickup truck along winding back roads. She quickly texted Detective Holden her pinpoint location, praying the message would get through the spotty service. After 20 minutes, Bran's truck slowed, turning onto a narrow dirt road. Ahead, an older sedan was just pulling out of the driveway. Bran's truck sped up, trailing it. The chase led them down progressively narrower roads, deeper into the wooded landscape. Finally, the car ahead turned into a clearing with a small, well-maintained farmhouse. Rowan's car was parked haphazardly, the driver's door still ajar. Rowan Pledger stood by his car, a tall man with his son's dark hair, now streaked with gray. "Bran, what are you doing here?" he asked, his voice deep and gruff. "And who's this woman?" "This is Clara Marin, Dad," Bran said, his posture tense. "She came looking for her daughter, a daughter who was kidnapped 18 years ago." By Mom, Rowan's expression flickered. "What are you talking about? Your mother never kidnapped anyone." Before the argument could escalate, the front door of the farmhouse opened, and a young woman stepped onto the porch. "Rowan!" she called out. "What's going on?" Her silhouette was unmistakable. Clara's heart stopped. Rowan quickly moved to block the view. "Go back inside. I'll be there in a minute." But the young woman, her curiosity piqued, descended the steps. As she walked into the glow of the porch light, Clara saw it, the distinctive violet birthmark, shaped exactly like a lotus blossom. "Oh my God," Clara breathed, her legs suddenly unsteady. The young woman, Emmy, looked at Clara with a mixture of curiosity and caution. "Who are you?" Clara took a hesitant step forward, every fiber of her being wanting to rush to her, but she restrained herself. "My name is Clara Marin," she said gently. I believe you might be my daughter." Emmy stared, her expression morphing from confusion to disbelief. "What? That's impossible. My parents are John and Miriam Kessler." The lies began to unravel in a chaotic storm of accusation and denial. Emmy learned the Kesslers had lied about her being a day worker. Rowan, cornered, admitted the Kesslers had asked him to hide Emmy for a few weeks, claiming dangerous creditors were after them. "Debt?" Emmy echoed. "What debt?" "The farm is doing well." Bran turned on his father. "What about Mom, Dad? What really happened?" The truth, when it came, was uglier than Clara could have imagined, Rowan finally confessed. The Kesslers couldn't have children of their own. They had bought Ella from the same criminal network that had used Maurice to abduct her and then murdered her to ensure her silence. "They bought me?" Emmy asked, her voice hollow. "So everything I thought I knew about myself is a lie," she whispered, wrapping her arms around herself. Before the raw, chaotic scene could devolve further, the wail of sirens cut through the night. Emmy held up her cell phone, her expression firm and defiant. "I called them when I first heard you arguing," she said, her voice shaking but resolute. "No more running, no more lies. I want the truth." In the small, sterile waiting area of the police station, Clara sat with a paper cup of lukewarm coffee, her eyes fixed on the hallway door. When it finally opened, Emmy emerged. She walked toward Clara and took the seat beside her. The silence between them was a vast, echoing space filled with 18 years of absence. "I never thought I'd be in a police station at midnight, discovering my entire life has been a lie," Emmy said finally, her voice steady despite the gravity. "I never thought I'd find you," Clara replied softly. "After all these years, I'd start to believe I never would."